On a chilly autumn evening, Sarah arrived at her grandmother's old, creaky house for the first time in years. The house stood isolated at the end of a winding road, surrounded by towering, leafless trees that seemed to whisper secrets in the wind. The sky was overcast, hinting at the storm to come. As Sarah walked up the cobblestone path, her footsteps echoed in the stillness. She fumbled with the rusty key before finally unlocking the heavy wooden door. The house welcomed her with a cold, musty air, as if it had been holding its breath since her last visit. Inside, the house was a maze of memories. Dusty photographs lined the walls, and the furniture was covered in white sheets, ghostly in the dim light. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine, but she shook it off, attributing it to the cold weather. She made her way to the living room, where she found an old oil lamp and lit it, casting flickering shadows on the walls. The house creaked and groaned as if it were waking up from a long slumber. Sarah set her bags down and sighed, trying to shake off the feeling of unease that had settled over her. Little did she know, the night was just beginning, and the house had many secrets waiting to be uncovered. As Sarah settled into the living room, she noticed an old writing desk in the corner, partially hidden under a dusty white sheet. Curiosity got the better of her, and she pulled the sheet away, revealing the desk in its entirety. It was a beautiful piece of furniture, ornate and worn with age. She opened the drawers, one by one, finding nothing but old ink bottles and yellowed papers. In the last drawer, however, she discovered a sealed envelope. The paper was brittle, and the ink on the envelope had faded, but she could still make out her grandmother's handwriting. It was addressed to her. Sarah's hands trembled as she carefully opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. The letter spoke of strange occurrences in the house, of noises and shadows that her grandmother could never explain. It warned Sarah to be cautious and to trust her instincts. The final lines were a cryptic message. The house holds many secrets, some better left undiscovered. But if you must know, start with the attic. Sarah's heart raced as she read the words. The unease she had felt since her arrival now made sense. She knew she had to follow her grandmother's advice, but fear gnawed at her. The attic, the very thought of it sent shivers down her spine. Little did she know, the night would soon reveal the first of many secrets hidden within the walls of her grandmother's house. As Sarah tried to shake off the unsettling feeling from her grandmother's letter, she decided to explore the house further. She walked through the dimly lit hallways, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Each room seemed to have its own story, its own secrets. In one of the bedrooms, she noticed a painting hanging slightly askew. It depicted a serene landscape, but something about it felt off. Sarah approached the painting and carefully lifted it from the wall. Behind it, she discovered a small, hidden compartment. Her heart pounded in her chest as she opened it, revealing a dusty journal. She flipped through the pages, realizing it belonged to her grandmother. The entries spoke of strange events, much like the letter had, but in more detail. There were mentions of cold spots, whispering voices, and objects moving on their own. One particular entry caught Sarah's eye. It described a small ornate key hidden in the house, a key that her grandmother believed could unlock the attic's secrets. Sarah's fear was momentarily replaced by a surge of determination. She had to find that key. The journal hinted that it was concealed somewhere in the living room, but it didn't specify where. With renewed purpose, Sarah headed back downstairs, unaware of the storm brewing outside and the darkness that awaited her. As Sarah searched the living room for the hidden key, her heart raced with each creak and groan of the old house. The storm outside intensified, casting fleeting shadows through the cracked windows. She rummaged through old books, lifted cushions, and examined every nook and cranny. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew open the living room door, sending a cold shiver down her spine. She turned around, her breath quickening as she realized she was not alone. In the corner of the room, partially obscured by shadows, stood a tall, menacing figure. Its eyes glowed eerily in the dim light, piercing through the darkness. Sarah's mouth opened to scream, but no sound came out. The figure began to move towards her, its footsteps echoing in the silence. Paralyzed with fear, she backed away slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. Just as the figure seemed to be within reach, a flash of lightning illuminated the room, and it vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Sarah stood frozen, trying to make sense of what she had just witnessed. Was it a figment of her imagination or something far more sinister? Determined to find the key and uncover the truth, she gathered her courage and continued her search, unaware of the storm that was about to engulf her. As Sarah continued her search for the hidden key, she noticed an old photograph album tucked away on a dusty shelf. With trembling hands, she pulled it out and flipped through the pages. The photographs depicted happy family moments, but one picture caught her eye. It was a faded black and white image of her grandmother standing in front of the house, holding a mysterious object in her hand. Sarah squinted, trying to make out the details. The object looked like an ornate key, but what really unsettled her was the figure standing in the background. It was the same menacing figure she had seen moments before. Its eyes glowed with the same eerie light, and it seemed to be staring directly at her through the photograph. Her heart pounded as she tore the photograph from the album, desperate for answers. Suddenly, the room grew colder, and she felt a chilling breeze brush against her skin. The lights flickered, and the photograph in her hand began to burn, turning to ash within seconds. Terrified yet determined, Sarah knew she had to uncover the secrets hidden within the house. She clutched the charred remains of the photograph and pressed on, unaware of the storm that was about to engulf her. As Sarah clutched the charred remains of the photograph, her relief was short-lived. A sinister whisper filled the air, sending chills down her spine. She turned around, but there was no one there. The whisper grew louder, filling her mind with dark, unsettling thoughts. She felt a cold hand rest on her shoulder, and she spun around, her heart pounding in her chest. But again, there was no one there. Panic surged through her as she bolted down the stairs, her footsteps echoing in the empty house. The whisper followed her, growing more intense and menacing with each step. Desperate to escape, she stumbled through the darkened halls, her fear and confusion mounting with every passing second. The house seemed to come alive with the whisper's malevolent presence, wrapping her in a suffocating grip of terror. As she reached the bottom of the stairs, the whisper reached a deafening crescendo, threatening to overwhelm her fragile sanity. Sarah knew she had to find the source of this malevolence, or risk being consumed by it entirely. As Sarah stumbled through the darkened halls, her heart pounding in her chest, she noticed something peculiar. A faint glow emanated from behind a large, dusty bookshelf. Trembling with fear and curiosity, she approached the shelf, her fingers tracing the edges. With a deep breath, she pushed against the heavy wooden structure. To her astonishment, it slid open, revealing a hidden room bathed in an eerie, flickering light. The room was filled with ancient artifacts, old books, and strange symbols etched into the walls. Sarah's eyes widened as she stepped inside, her mind racing with possibilities. What secrets did this room hold? And why was it hidden away? As she explored further, she found an old journal lying on a pedestal. The cover was worn, but the pages inside were filled with detailed accounts of supernatural occurrences and dark rituals. Her hands shook as she read through the journal, piecing together the terrifying history of the house. It was then she realized that the malevolent presence she felt was not just a figment of her imagination. It was real, and it was watching her. The whispers grew louder, echoing through the hidden room. Sarah knew she had to find a way to stop whatever dark force was at play before it consumed her completely. Gathering her courage, she decided to delve deeper into the mysteries of the hidden room, hoping to uncover the truth and put an end to the haunting once and for all. Late one stormy night, Sarah found herself alone in her grandmother's old, creaky house. The wind howled through the broken windows, and the floorboards groaned under her weight. She tried to sleep, but a persistent scratching sound echoed from the attic above. Ignoring it at first, she eventually decided to investigate. She climbed the narrow wooden staircase, each step creaking ominously. As she reached the attic door, the scratching stopped. Holding her breath, Sarah slowly opened the door. The moonlight streamed in through a cracked window, casting long, eerie shadows across the dusty floor. In the corner, she noticed an old, tattered doll with a porcelain face, its eyes missing. The scratching started again, louder this time, but it wasn't coming from the attic. It was right behind her. Sarah spun around, but the door slammed shut, trapping her in the darkness. She reached for the door, but something cold and bony grabbed her wrist. She screamed, but her voice was swallowed by the darkness. The last thing she saw was the doll's hollow eyes glowing in the dark, as a cold, sinister voice whispered in her ear, "You're not alone." The house stood silent the next morning. The storm passed. But Sarah was never seen again. All that was found in the attic was the doll, now with a faint, twisted smile on its face.